So, are AI agents going to change everything, some things, or nothing for co-working businesses? Welcome to Undercurrents, this week in co-working's deep dives into some of the trends that we feel have the potential to drastically change, improve, or disrupt the way the co-working spaces grow all around the world. Today we're going to dig into AI agents, or agentic AI. But before we do, I have to preface this entire edition that it's very likely that it will be outdated in a year, in a month, a week, maybe even now that you're listening to it. There's been more AI releases that could automatically make a lot of the content that we've shared obsolete. So instead of digging too deeply into exactly how AI agents are being implemented today, what we're going to do instead is feature some experts from across the co-working industry, both in and around it, and dig into what is possible, what could be possible, and a lot of the fundamentals around how to think about AI when it comes to your business. Now, I've used the term AI and agentic AI and AI agents pretty loosely in this intro. But what I want to start with is really helping you understand what is the difference between automation, AI automation, and AI agents. But before we do, I want to just remind you that it does take an entire village to pull these undercurrent editions together. And in order to do so in a sustainable way, we reach out to some of the fantastic brands across our industry to see who would be interested in sponsoring the research, interviews, preparation, post-production, and global distribution of these editions in 4 different mediums so that everyone across the co-working world can enjoy, benefit, and learn from them. Now, as with all undercurrents, the sponsor or the underwriter has no editorial rights around who we interview, what goes in, what the results of the report are. What they can control, though, is what you hear in their foreword, i.e. why they sponsored this undercurrent and why they believe it's important. And the last word, i.e. what they thought of the report before we make it generally available to the public. And so with that, I'm going to hand over to Francesco to tell you a little bit more about why they sponsored this Undercurrents edition.
Hey everyone, I'm Francesco De Camilli and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unity AI. We are an AI agent company purpose-built for the flexible workspace industry. Everything we do is to help flexible workspace operators more efficiently convert their inbound leads into customers. We're very excited to be sponsoring this Undercurrents edition with Hector. We've known Hector and his team for a long time, and we think that this is a really important and timely topic for the industry. And as a company specifically focused on the flexible workspace sector and working directly with these clients, we're really excited to underwrite this edition and share what we have learned over the last 2 years building agents for our client.
In each edition of Undercurrents, we don't just tell you what we're seeing in the news, behind the scenes, and between the lines. We also like to bring in experts from across and around the co-working world to come in and share what they're seeing, what they're doing, the challenges they've faced it, and how it's affecting co-working businesses. And this edition is no different. Here are some of the experts who volunteered their time, their insights, and their honesty around AI agents for co-working spaces.
I'm Arsene Guerra. I'm one of the marketing team at Ariga Offices.
My name is Keen Wilmot. I'm the co-founder and CEO of IQ Offices.
My name is Sari Lash, and I'm the Director of Brand and Culture at 25 North Coworking.
Hey, Alasker, co-founder and CEO of FlexSpace AI.
I'm Elliot Gold. I am CEO of WorkLife, and I also work with a business called Orchestry.
Brian Watson of HummingAgent.ai.
Alex Harrington, I'm a founder at Eva Technology.
Sean Kircher, I'm CTO, Humming Agent AI.
Now, before we get any further, I'm going to answer one of the questions that I was asked a whole bunch while researching this topic. And that is, what exactly is an AI agent or agentic AI, and how does it differ from what we've been doing so far. I think the best way to do that is to compare it to something we probably already know in some way in our businesses. We're going to start by looking at automation, i.e. workflows, then look at kind of AI automation, and then have a quick look at what that now means with AI agents. So starting off, automations or workflows or processes are usually predefined steps that allow you to get to a specific, repeatable result given a specific action or event. So someone would create a system or a workflow in tools like Zapier, Make, Syncaroo, etc., which allow the action to trigger a specific result. So to give you an example, an event, maybe someone is added into your inventory system. The workflow is then to make sure they get email access, make sure they are added to an organization, the billing is set up, and then once that is all done, based on their organization, either send them template A or get some extra information and send them template B. So an automation is pretty rigid. You predefined it, you manually create those steps and connect the pieces to tell the system how to go from an event to a result. Now, with the addition of AI and ChatGPT and all these AI APIs, there is this new trend of adding in AI helpers into these processes. So we're basically replacing some of those manual steps with a confined AI module to help kind of make the process or the task more dynamic. So going back to our example, let's use an event of someone is added to the CRM, but then we want to create a custom email introducing them to the space. Now that could be add a bit of humor, add a plant pun, add something that they may not know about the city that's related to their industry, and then based on the organization, send them template A or template B. So you're seeing it's not a complete rewrite of the system, you're just making it more dynamic so that 5 people from the same organization or 5 people from 5 different organizations are all getting slightly different tailored messages, but there's no human setup here of saying if industry equals X, then do Y. Now this is where it gets interesting, right? You still have predefined workflows, you still have a repeatable and pretty predictable result for every event. Where AI agents come in is you don't create the steps. You give the agent parameters, instructions, and guidance, and increasingly train them based on previous results to get closer to your preferred results. Now, going back to our example, let's say a user is added to a CRM, and we give the AI agent the task to make the user feel welcomed by providing onboarding, neighborhood, and other advice. So what that could do, depending on which systems you connected to, it could welcome them, send them out an email or an SMS, asking them if they need any help setting anything up, if they need help set up their printer, get the printer setup information, guide them through the rest of the onboarding steps, making sure their accounting details are filled out. You could also even give them best practices. Look at what industry they're in, going back to the previous example, and then maybe make introductions or draft an email that your community manager can then send, or a Slack message that can connect them with other members in your community. Taking it a bit further, it could even look at fields that they may have signed up with in their onboarding process and recommend local eateries or local places to hang out that may be relevant to them. So it's quite an open-ended thing, but the main takeaway here is compared to AI automation, there is no predefined steps. each flow through this may take different steps, and the agent has to kind of make up their own process or their own workflow to get close to that desired result. Now I'm going to take this one step further because we're definitely seeing a huge trend since the first recording I made of this, and that is this addition of multi-agent frameworks. So in the example before, it's a lot to ask one agent to do 5 different specialized tasks: finding local places to hang out, best practices, technical onboarding, accounting onboarding, account checkups. All of these now can be broken up into separate agents that can either work in a workflow, in a process after each other and hand information to each other, or they can work concurrently. So all these different things can go out. When built right, that just means that someone is interacting with maybe multiple agents or one agent that then is orchestrating the rest of the agents. So that's my slightly elongated and technical definition. Let's hear quickly what our experts would define AI agents as.
So an AI agent would be a customized agent that would act on your behalf to do certain functions. And I have no idea whether that is actually the accurate description, but that is how I view it. It's trainable, it learns, it works 24/7, it has access to unlimited information, essentially like another team member that we can have to complement our existing skill sets.
So, how would I define an AI agent? I will be very candid that I'm speaking from the layman's perspective. I have read numbers of articles and listened to podcasts on the tools, but definitely coming from a layman's perspective on the understanding around the difference, especially between generative and agentic AI. How we would use an AI agent would be, this is a tool that knows how to respond, reason, and then take action. So the react model is definitely key to our understanding as a company. Obviously, generative AI is all about creating content, and it is only as good as the information that it was trained on. Agentic AI is now iterating on that. It is taking its own form of machine reasoning and taking action in more advanced workflows.
For me, an AI agent is something which focuses on a specific piece of software, or in this case, a marketing channel. And I think it's really defined in 4 areas. I think it's persona, objective, data, and style. Its persona being the way it talks to other human beings and the way it talks to us. Objective is essentially what it has to do so it understands the task in hand. The data could be essentially referring to our stock and our frequently asked questions. And the style is the human touch in terms of the way it responds, and it's not robotic.
So why now? Why take the time to research and dive really deeply into AI agents? In order to better understand that, I always like to look at a macro view of what's happening in industries around us, industries across the world, that we could look at and learn from and bring those lessons into co-working before they come and disrupt co-working from underneath us. So if we look across the tech world, we're seeing major firms that are betting that agents or AI agents will actually start replacing a whole bunch of software. And we're going to start seeing a shift of workforces that are both human plus AI. To elaborate this, let's start with the software side. Microsoft's CEO Satya Nadella noted that they're seeing a core application architecture that was changing, going on to say that AI agents won't be bound to any one piece of software, application, or database. What Satya is saying here is that when you're writing software, you're normally refined to what it can do and what it can see and what it can talk to, whereas AI agents are not seeing that. Salesforce's CEO Mark Benioff takes it a bit further. At a recent panel at the World Economic Forum in Davos, he said that today's cohorts of CEOs will probably be the last to lead all human workforces. Take a second to think about that. He's not saying that we're going to acquire software or agents. you're going to start hiring them. It's a very big mind shift, a very subtle one, but something we should really think about. But you're probably thinking AI has been here for a while. What's technically driving this new momentum behind AI agents? And while there's quite a lot, and this is the part that's probably going to age like milk, there's 4 main things that I think you should think about. 1, companies like Google, Vercel, Perplexity, OpenAI, and others are releasing agent development kits. What this leads to is more agents. Now, these development kits are kind of like helper software or frameworks that make building agents even faster, cheaper, and more powerful. So if you think back in software engineering, people had to initially hard code programming, and then there were frameworks, there were languages. It got easier and easier to write more complex software. We're starting to see that with the development of agents. It's becoming so fast and so easy that we're getting to a point where you can use AI pretty soon to generate AI agents. Alongside that, we're seeing more funding. Andreessen Horowitz, the VC firm, recently updated their thesis on AI voice agents that I'll link to in the report. They join a huge group of investors who are backing AI agents, especially those digging into what they call unsexy industries. But why am I singling out Andreessen Horowitz? Well, back in 2011, Mark Andreessen coined the term or the saying that software is eating the world. So if AI is now eating software, then AI agents will eat the world. The third important point is the new addition called MCP, or Model Context Protocol. What this means is that AI agents have access to more things. The most simplistic way to explain what this is to think about computers and phones and everything before there was a universal plug, i.e. the USB port. How difficult was it to keep connecting different cables to different machines to get them to work together? MCPs are like the USB ports that let your agents connect to different systems. This lets your AI agents speak to external systems like your CRMs, web platforms that may not have robust APIs, but also give access to maybe proprietary, private, or secure databases or systems that are not normally accessible to people outside your organization. So those 3 trends are pushing this drive into AI agents. But I think there's still one more, and this is the fact that multi-agent systems are being introduced and popularized. This means that not only can agents touch more things and see more things and speak to more systems, but now there are protocols and systems being built where they can hand over tasks or files or processes to each other. So going back to our previous example, instead of building an AI agent for co-working spaces that has to do all the things that go into a co-working space business and kind of does everything okay, you can now have, for example, a highly trained AI agent that is great at selling on-demand services. And then one that is perfectly prepared to wrap up and summarize and warm up an enterprise lead so that they're primed and excited to go before it's handed to a human salesperson. So the on-demand agent hands it over to an enterprise agent. If it detects that this is not an on-demand request, the enterprise agent prepares it, gives it to a human salesperson. The human salesperson then closes it and checks it as closed in the CRM. The enterprise sales agent can pick that up and say, certain things need to be actioned in different department now, ping the front of house assistant agent to prepare the community team on how to make day one amazing for this customer, ping the accounting agent to make sure that everything is set up there. But you get the idea. It's very much the future that we're getting to, where each department will have one or more specialized agents, and they'll be able to speak to each other in a very secure and reliable way. So with that background, let's take a quick dip into who is actually implementing AI agents into their businesses.
At Ariga, we spent a lot of time investigating AI before we invested. Initially, we were using AI as more of a GPT tool to streamline work and improve basic processes. But we have just brought on an AI agent to support with our inbound leads. And we spent about 11 months researching this, looking at our own capabilities and looking at what's on the market. We're certainly not late to the game, but we're certainly an early adopter. And we approached it very cautiously. We made sure we didn't lock into something which was perhaps too early in the development stage. We really wanted to almost take the approach of Apple. Apple, I don't think, is the most innovative brand if compared to its competitors, but when it does do something, it does it right.
We started using AI about a year ago for a lot of content, a lot to do on the marketing side. That was the first implementation piece. From there, it started moving into the sales portion of the organization. So we started looking at how can we use AI as a chat agent so that we could get in touch with our customer and provide our customer with information after hours, during hours, in a very quick way. And so started in marketing, moving to sales. We'll start looking at using it in other components of our business as well. But those are really I would say, the ones that are easiest to implement, and I'll throw that in air quotes, but the easiest to implement and where you see a lot of return in a very short period of time. It's very, very tangible.
When it comes to how we've investigated and implemented AI at 25 North, there's a lot of personal curiosity from our team members when it comes to investigating. We're all probably using ChatGPT in some way or another. There's a lot of personal interest. It's such a quickly evolving field. So as individuals in our roles, I know that there's a lot of utilization of generative AI tools that are out there. I will say as a company, we've embraced these tools very cautiously and thoughtfully. There's a larger brand reputation at stake. And when there's so much moving in a field so fast, we want to take a really thoughtful approach to what we're putting our efforts behind, not only our dollars investment wise, but also what we're staking our brand reputation on. I've heard that there's like a bell curve when it comes to adopting new technologies. There's innovators, early adopters. I think probably the bulk of people are in the early majority, and then there's late majority and there's laggers. We don't want to be in the late majority lagging crew, but we're probably not quite comfortable in the early innovation crew with the way we want to protect our brands, probably squarely in the early majority.
At the moment, we have an agent that we're piloting, which is working for our direct inbound leads from our website, which is performing quite well. And now we're just working on an AI agent for the broker community. So we want brokers not just to call us, but they can reference our availability on our website. But I want to get to the point where they can just WhatsApp our AI agent and within 30 seconds have an office match and they can book a tour and get it straight in our diary. But with the broker community, we will be very clear that it is an AI agent.
In terms of the AI agents that we've implemented at 25 North, we have really appreciated the use of a tool made by Unity AI. This is our first point of contact when it comes to new leads coming in through our pipeline. The idea here is that we're not replacing a task that human does best. They're really doing a deep dive into the needs and wants of our leads, the personal connection, the warm, evaluative, relationship building work. It's not doing that. It's really on the front lines, doing the tasks that we cannot do fast, getting responses done on evenings and weekends, responding to really hot leads that came in from places that need response times within 10 minutes. Those are things that our human team cannot reasonably get done. And so we've been really glad to have a tool that is able to handle some of that rote work that requires a lot of repetition, a lot of speed. And then that tool then filters leads to a place where they can have a great, warm, very customized human connection.
We use an AI agent that is on the sales side. So right now it is only an email. That's how we have it set up. We're in the early stages of the implementation. So we've been using it. We've got feedback on it. We're happy with the feedback. We're happy with how it's working. But it is early stages. And what we did is we segregated a portion of our revenue stack, and we only have it pointed at that. So has to do with online bookings, has to do with the e-commerce piece, right? So providing information so that people can transact online and that we can provide information very, very timely during off hours as well.
So My background, I ran 7 co-working spaces with no employees. We automated all of it and we used HubSpot and stuff like that. We sold those businesses a while ago. And I just wish I had AI agents now, because what we had done is set up some automation where you sign up and then we would text you a link to the digital door or whatever. And that was great because we have a lot more people now using co-working spaces in an on-demand fashion. We're all post-COVID, and so we all like self-service and stuff like that. And in a world of self-service, AI agents are awesome, right? And so they can really help answer any questions that your customers are going to have, because all of the questions that they're going to have is contextual around your business. And so all you need to do is ingest knowledge about your business into the agent, and then they can answer those questions and stuff like that. And so I really do think it's great for customer support. It's great for answering questions. It's great for fixing problems that your customers are having quickly. And so that's where I think that there's just tons of opportunity.
It's got me wondering about what the actual results have been so far. Are these AI agents actually driving business value for co-working spaces?
The success we've seen with this AI agent has been really tremendous. It is impossible for our team to get back to leads that are hot, especially coming off a platform like a Google ad or a Meta ad, where response time within 2 to 10 minutes is essential. We were previously missing those. If someone was out on a weekend, which is something we want our team to have, you should be able to take the weekends off as a salesperson. This tool has been really important in increasing our lead response times when we want to be able to give our human team time away. I would say not having to wait to get our leads info on evenings and weekends. I think another crucial area is that it has really removed barriers to sale when the lead comes in ready to purchase. So products like meeting rooms, flex desks, things where people know that they want it, but we might still have had someone in the pipeline between the lead who comes in and wants the product and then the purchase. This has really streamlined that process as well, where there's not a ton of follow-up needed, not a ton of additional information, but a lead just needs to be moved through the process. This tool has been essential for those kinds of sales as well.
The biggest win, right now where we're testing it is fairly low dollar volume. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to take a little bit of the risk out of it. If it's going to be a bad user experience, we don't want to risk a high ticket revenue item. So the win wouldn't be on the revenue side. The win would be on the comfort side and us looking at it and saying, is this thing actually capable of creating an interaction with our customer that is in line with how we speak to our customer? And we're seeing that it does. So far, we're seeing that it does, and that's a huge win.
So we've been piloting our AI agent for about 8 weeks now. From what I can see, it has increased our lead to tour conversion rate by about 8%.
On average, we're seeing about a 10-point increase in conversion rate from lead to tour for operators that work with Unity. So if you're at 20, 30, if you're at 30, 40, obviously it varies by operator and by lead volume, but generally speaking, we're seeing a 10-point increase in conversion rate. And generally, it's not coming down to the language being better. It's just speed, right? If you're engaging leads in the first 30 seconds, 24/7, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it is just going to result in a higher conversion rate than whatever you're doing today. It's just how the real estate industry works. It's how consumers are trained. They're shopping multiple options. What we sell at the end of the day is speed. Everything else has to work, or it can't be a production level service for our clients. And our clients, trust me, they're very demanding. At the end of the day, if it works, you'll see a 10-point increase in conversion rate.
And now let's hop really quickly over to some of the companies that are building in this space. What do they believe are the biggest opportunities or potential for co-working spaces to get right using AI agents?
The way we think about the value for agents is really around dealing with customers. So much real estate is all about people, right? And managing a co-working space is all about managing people. Whether that's when they're coming to you and looking for space, whether that's when they're onboarding, whether that's where they're an existing member of your space and they have continuous questions, or they're looking to grow, or they haven't paid their bill on time and you need to follow up with them and collect payment. It's all about continuous engagement with customers. And if you really logically deduce a lot of those interactions, there are a lot of the same 4 or 5 workflows that a community manager is dealing with. And so where we really see the opportunity for AI is to support those people to more efficiently manage those conversations at scale. Where we've started is naturally where we think there's the most near-term value, which is top of funnel, helping operators convert more of their leads into customers. One of the things that we see across all operators is they're running kind of an inbound driven sales funnel. They're running marketing, both online, offline. People come to them, and then their sales process is really about how quickly can you engage those leads, qualify those leads, and convert those leads. And a lot of operators wear a lot of hot hats, the people that work there. And so what we find is that oftentimes the job of closing these leads comes down to people who are also responsible for managing existing members and doing a number of other things. And what that unfortunately ends up in today's environment is potential leads going hours, if not days, without kind of an effective response. And at the end of the day, real estate is a little bit of it's a market where people have a lot of choice. And whenever people have choice, how quickly you can engage them determines your likelihood of converting them. And so by delivering a solution that enables operators to more effectively engage leads in a timely manner, we're helping them close more deals.
At FlexSpace, we see the biggest potential for AI agents by just making technology more intuitive. This is the one thing that I'm truly excited about, because once we can open technology through one conversational system where people can actually deploy technology in a very intuitive way, that's for me is incredible, because it will make technology so much more accessible to a lot more people. Specifically, the way we're excited about AI agents in the co-working industry is where today co-working operators need to jungle or go through so many hoops and different systems in their tech stack. And what we are excited about is that AI agents will be able to connect all the dots for operators and really allow them to focus on the most important thing, which is hospitality and community. We are focusing on 2 main areas as it comes to AI agents in co-working. One is pricing. We truly believe there's a huge opportunity to build a much better pricing engine using AI agents. Pricing should not be a static number, right? Prices are being impacted by so many different variables, and it's very hard to obtain the optimal pricing point in real time for every single resource and asset in your location. So that's one area where FlexSpace is putting a lot of efforts into, to build a smart pricing engine that will optimize revenue in real time. The second big area of focus for FlexSpace is to build a hyper-personalized marketing activities. So we started with building an AI-powered retargeting marketing campaigns to get people to come back, increase retention and lifetime value.
We help operational real estate operators to streamline their operations through AI agents. As a sector, generally, as you'll know, Flex isn't necessarily the most forward-looking when it comes to embracing technology. And so throughout the sector, there is a lot of inefficient process. Many operators still using outdated manual methods that aren't optimized and that can be optimized through technology. The traditional way of working for many operators was fine and in lots of cases was profitable. What we're starting to see is many operators now finding it harder to focus on the top line so much. Revenue growth in some locations has slowed. And 2025, as we know, is becoming the year of efficiency, the year when everyone focuses on the bottom line rather than just the top line. And that means that the traditional fatty, loose way of working for many operators that was driven by some names that we can all think of is no longer appropriate, no longer viable, and lots of pressure on this term efficiency. And that's where the opportunity for using technology and AI agents in particular comes in. Opportunity to optimize resources, to become more lean, and to help the best operators to become more profitable and more high margin.
Where I see the biggest potential for AI agents is a little counterintuitive, actually, because I think co-working is all about hospitality. And so we think of human to human hospitality, which is very true. But I think so much of hospitality is about meeting our members where they're at and giving them quality or answers when they need it. And so AI agents are super helpful because you can leverage your agents anywhere and anyone can access them and get exactly the information that they need exactly when they need it. And so I think the counterintuitive part is actually you can increase the customer experience by embracing agents to help your customers when they need help. The way that we think about AI and how they should be applied is we're not trying to develop the next new product or the next hot new thing because everything is moving so freaking fast. It's like unbelievable. What we want to do is create kind of white labeled experiences with the existing technology. And so we think about AI voice is a technology that's at the cutting edge, but we can bring that in-house and then you can customize it for your own business and then leverage it. Or chat. So everyone has used ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or whatever. We can bring that in-house. You can ingest your knowledge base into it. And so then you can talk to it, or your customers can talk to it, or your employees can talk to it with your knowledge base there.
Yeah, and another thing we're looking at as AI agents is a blend of AI and human concierge, where AI can do check-ins, scheduling, we'll be able to get analytics and know when is there a demand, and really just have the staff really focus on culture and relationships.
The first place that it could be of the most benefit is actually having flex spaces adopt their own AI for their own needs, not so much for their end users, but for the flex space itself, because you have typically people with a cell phone walking around, booking appointments, answering questions. A lot of that could be done through the web, but people are on their cell phones and it's not enough information. You want a little bit bigger screen. AI is available 24/7. It can book appointments. It can give you reports. It can lead capture. You could call a co-working network in any part of the country and the AI can say, where do you want your office? And this could be 24/7. This is 2 o'clock in the morning through 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Do you prefer a downtown office, a Waterview office, whatever? When these professionals are coming and going, it can book those resources. It can make sure that the person gets a link to whatever they need to access the center. And it can also give a lot of information about the center that they're going to visit or they're going to utilize. And there are things that are housekeeping or different amenities that are important. And if that person that's on their cell phone walking around that's in charge of the sales for that particular business didn't take that call, the call's never missed. So I think that's the first advantage for a co-working space is just having that front door open all the time with all the information that you could possibly need, literally at the speed of light. Because a human answering a call might say, let me check on this or let me check on that or dive into a web page, where AI is instantaneous. The information you want is literally just going to just come right out.
When it comes to disruptions of this magnitude, there's a lot of moving parts to navigate. How to pick solutions, address fears, bust myths or misconceptions, and explore some of the best practices of what to do when it comes down to what to pick.
We had a lot of fears on AI, and our initial fear was if we introduce it, and especially when we're talking about agents, we were worried that it will be too robotic, because one of the USPs of Ariga is we're a very people-focused business. Our teams that sit at reception, they get to know our clients. Even though we work in our central support center, we get to know our clients as well. And we didn't want to take away that personal touch. We were worried it's could be very robotic, but what we have found is when you train the persona correctly, it can really hit our tone of voice and support our work and increase our efficiencies.
Yeah, I think the number one myth is that it's either you're using humans or you're using AI, right? And I think that the way I always encourage all of our prospective customers to think about integrating AI, and the way I encourage our own team to think about the products that we build, is to build it with the human kind of at the center, and the AI as a kind of an added muscle to multiply the efforts of the humans. And so I think the key to any good AI agent product is how are you actually integrating it into the workflow with the existing humans at the organization so that they work together to get work done, right? And so a very kind of like basic example of what does that mean in practice is if an AI agent is dealing with a lead and they're always like keeping on copy their human sales rep counterpart who oversees that building. So that person can step in at any point in time and take over that conversation. So making sure it doesn't live in like a silo, but it's integrated into the workflow is really key.
So in terms of fears for AI, that is something that certainly we experience. We experience it internally, we experience it ourselves, right? The biggest challenge we had was quality control. Understanding that the AI would replicate our voice, whether it be on the marketing content side or whether it be on the sales and reach back side, right? So looking at those two, the question really was whether this was going to degrade the user experience from IQ's perspective. That was the first thing. And the short answer to that one is you have to be on top of it. You can use it as a tool, but you can't just rely on it by itself. It's not at the point today in the ways that we're using it where it can be used without significant supervision. It really is a tool to enhance the sales team, enhance the marketing team, enhance productivity. That's where we see the enhancements happening. But speaking in your voice is something that takes time, and you have to train the AI bot to be able to do it. You have to train ChatGPT to be able to do it. These are things that come over time, and it comes with innovation within AI, and we expect that is going to happen. But that fear was there. The other fear was just looking at people saying, well, is this going to replace jobs? Is this going to replace me? If I bring this AI chatbot in, does that mean that you don't need me anymore? And one of the things I would say about our business is certainly AI is going to allow us to become much more efficient. But we are very much IRL, customer-facing sort of business. And our real value prop has to do with our ability to connect with people. So AI helps us to do that, but it certainly could not remove that when that is at the core of our value proposition.
The common misconception or the complexity that people raise around AI is the inability to deliver a personal level of service by simultaneously embracing AI. And for many operators who pride themselves on that personal level of service and the way that they provide service to their customers, that's a really important consideration. My take on that is that I fully acknowledge and agree that people are choosing our products as flex operators because they value human relationships and because they value personal experiences, but AI doesn't need to disrupt this. Implementing AI in the right way augments human interaction by taking on the routine, the mundane tasks, and actually leaving people to focus on the creative and critical thinking that provides value to customers.
The biggest myth I would like to address about AI agents is that they're going to replace humans. I mean, I think that AI agents will be successful by really integrating into existing workflows and making the mundane tasks in our everyday life automated and frictionless.
When implementing any technology, there's always some sort of learning curve. These operators share what they found as the biggest learning curves.
So when it comes to how our team behaviors have had to adjust around introducing an AI tool, I would say it's taken the amount of time to train the tool as it would to train a real human being. So I think once we were able to adjust to that reality as a team, this tool's not going to be something we can just plug in and it will run perfectly right away. You have to imagine that it is like any other team member that you're bringing in. It's going to need to understand your processes. It's going to need to understand your language. It's going to need to understand what are your metrics for success. It's very similar to how you would need to train another member of your sales team. So I think our team had to get used to the reality that sometimes it takes longer in the initial phase to train AI than it might be to just do it yourself. But we're playing the long game. So once you can get the tool trained and really put in that initial investment, it has saved us a tremendous amount of time. I will say another aspect that it's required us to be more self aware is when it comes to our processes. Our SOPs have to be rock solid in order to help the AI tool understand where it needs to plug in. Especially when it comes to sales, there's so much intuitiveness in the process. You're just making decisions by the seat of your pants, you're flying based on the feedback you're getting from that lead. We've really had to step back and document and think very clear-headedly about how exactly do we want this process to flow in its best form. And that's also no different than how it would be when you are training a new team member. It just you really have to think like a manager when you are training an AI tool in terms of, all right, what context do I need to give this person? What is the metric for success? It can't just run on instinct. You have to train its brain. That has definitely required some behavioral adjustments from a team, but it's things that we really have needed to implement anyway. Like you need really solid SOPs, you need good documentation. And so this has just forced us to fast track some of those detailed technical process build outs.
So we're going to start to see over time that we're going to integrate it into more and more portions of our business, looking at the revenue stack, kind of working our way into the higher pieces of our revenue stack over time. I think it's important that we use it as an ability to provide people with real-time information, which I think people are going to want. I think in the fullness of time, and this may be 2 years from now, or maybe 5 years from now, or maybe less, but I think the consumer at some point is going to go to a website, and if they can't get access to very detailed information from an agent, they're just going to go somewhere else because you're not going to give them the information that they want. The quality of the interaction may not be as good as it is with a human, but getting it instantaneously has value. So I think what you're going to see is in the early stages, people are going to favor timeliness over quality. I think that's what you're going to see. And I try not to overlay my own bias when I think about how to implement things because I know that I don't think the way everyone else thinks. But for me, I would rather have a lesser quality experience with more information than an experience I have to wait for to get more information. Because the timeliness is, you want to move fast, right? So I think you're going to see implementation on that very quickly. I also think you're going to see innovation on that side very quickly as well. So I think this is going to take people by surprise. I think we're right now redoing our website, and one of the considerations is how we're going to implement AI into the website experience. And so we're thinking about it. We're not there in terms of how we're integrating it yet, but you don't want to be left behind. And doing a website redesign it takes a lot of time and it's comprehensive. So we're thinking about it. We're thinking about how to design it. We're thinking about how to implement it. We're thinking about how to integrate it into the business. These are all the things that we want to be prepared for so that we can act quickly when the time is right. And I think when I say the time is right, we're talking within less than 24 months.
I've got a couple of thoughts here. First of all, it's a misconception that in the case of operators introducing these tools, that the team will run a million miles. Actually, implemented in the right way, they should be embraced by the team because what you're doing as an operator is replacing manual, repeatable work with work that is hopefully more stimulating. And in many cases is running these tools, but not having to do the manual, repeatable work. So actually, what you should see is that you're making life better for your team who are using these tools. The other thing is generally having these conversations, the temptation is to think that everybody is living and breathing this technology in the same way that perhaps you and I and others are on a day-to-day and obsessed with where things are going, actually the vast majority of people are outside of this bubble and are not engaging in the same way. So some people, you have a conversation and this term AI actually causes friction and actually causes people to build up a level of anxiety before you've even had a conversation. And how do you break that down? That comes with time as this technology becomes more mass market and more widely understood. And it comes with learning and with training people on the opportunity of using this technology for their roles, for their teams, for their businesses. And doing that starts to break down some of that friction and some of that anxiety.
We actually found the agent to be almost a little too helpful to our clients, because when you're trying to sell, you want to sell your most valuable stock first. But the AI agent, being a very honest, data-driven tool, was actually offering our clients the best value, which is something we want to do. We found sometimes, unfortunately, we're losing out on slightly bigger sales because the agent's just a bit too friendly to our clients, which isn't a bad thing. But it was an interesting learn for us.
I think that everybody is scared of AI, and there's a lot of like job loss and stigma around adopting AI, and also how it impacts your consumers or customers, negatively. And I think we touched on that today, but I think there's an emotional element here that is really important to consider. And I think that my advice or my sort of frame for operators for how to think about this is that none of us can change the fact that AI is going to continue to accelerate in terms of the level of intelligence that's being offered, and also the applications that are being built, and the consumers' expectations being rapidly changing. And what we can control is basically how we go about thoughtfully implementing it in very narrow, discrete ways that allow you to test before you make major changes to your systems.
But it's not all gravy. Implementing technology like AI agents can present some challenges. This is some of them.
We had a lot of challenges and concerns when we rolled out the agent. The main thing was, what happens if the agent says something wrong or misquotes a price? But fortunately, we trained the agent very, very well. We spent a lot of time checking the data that we give to the agent. So our main concern was misinformation. We found the opposite. We found that the agent, if it doesn't know the answer, it will escalate and hand over to a human being immediately.
We've had some challenges, as one would expect, implementing an AI agent like this. Certainly, the language that the tool uses doesn't always sound like our brand. We're getting there with it. It takes a lot of time. It's taken a lot of slow training and investment. So yeah, there's been some heavy team involvement needed to get this tool trained up in our sales process, which is inevitable. And there have been some leads that we've lost as a result of this. And that's no different than a human who we would be training as well. AI is not perfect. It's not going to get it right away. So yeah, were there leads that have gotten misquoted occasionally, or the tool maybe came across as more brisk than we would prefer? Those are certainly some initial drawbacks or hiccups that we've had to work through.
Now, outside of Twic and in my day job, I spend a lot of time advising workspace leaders and leadership teams around the evolution and cross-integration of current and future technology. A big part of that job is to remove the rose-tinted spectacles and explore the potential risks or threats that new technologies can present. While I can't share the details of these conversations, I can share big areas that I'd recommend all of you consider regarding your approach to AI agents. First, data security. What do you need or want to give specific AI agents access to? Now, think of this as, would you give your marketing intern access to all of your financial data? Probably not, right? So you probably shouldn't give your marketing AI agent access to that either. So really think about how, when you connect all your systems, how are you controlling access to specific subsets of your data? The second topic that I want you to keep in mind is ownership. Now, this edition is more about AI agents or agentic AI versus kind of generative AI, but it's definitely part of what agents are being tasked to do. For example, creating flyers, touching up photos, generating video, the list goes on. A question you should ask yourself and the platforms you plan to use is, who owns the output of the agent? On that note, you should probably and definitely ask, who owns the data as it's moving through the agent's workflows? This is still pretty much a gray area, and it has not been won out in any court cases that I know of yet, so definitely something to keep in mind. The next topic I really want you to think about is representation and biases. Now, while AI agents are being developed across the globe, a lot of them are using LLMs or engines that were developed in places like the US and China. Now, you should always ask yourselves whether the logic and output of these agents or systems may be biased in some way or form that goes against your local community, culture, or societal norms, and how best they should be adapted or tweaked to better handle those situations. Now, on the topic of challenges, and looking a little bit more at this idea of multi-agent setups, there is this parable of the world riding on the back of a turtle, and an internet meme that follows. Well, what is the turtle standing on? Well, obviously another turtle. And then what is that turtle standing on? Well, another turtle. If we adapt that to this idea of agents being on top of agents and it being agents all the way down, I did have to wonder, if something goes wrong while all these agents are daisy chained or concurrently working together, who is responsible?
I think the answer is probably the turtle at the top. I think there's going to be the way actually we construct our agents is there's typically, think of it almost like a master agent that's doing the kind of core job. And then there's a lot of feeder agents that are providing information to make that master agent do well. And I think the master agent is typically where we're building in the most guardrails and is the one that's responsible.
When we're talking about agents working with agents that are working with agents or whatever, and one small error can become a big problem down the line, I think the buck really has to start with your team.
It's a very good question. I was thinking about that in the context of self-driving cars, Tesla, Waymo. I mean, we do see those car accidents, and that does raise the question, whose fault is it when there's no driver in the seat? I think we'll still need to figure it out. I don't know if there's one single answer, but overall, once AI agent takes control, I believe we'll see less accidents in all aspects of our life. At the end of the day, it's about the quality of the data that you input. That's probably the most important thing. So if we go up the chain, probably it starts with whoever input the data.
The way that we've thought about it as a vendor is by building, as far as possible, by building guardrails into our product. And what I mean by that is these kind of agents, it's not life or death, obviously, but you're playing with live revenue for sure. And so these agents must operate with the right guardrails in place that are set, that are pre-programmed and that ultimately are set by operators or customized by operators. With Orchestry, for example, if an AI agent encounters something that it's not sure about or a complex issue, such as a complaint or something it hasn't seen before, it defers to a human. In the same way that if you were a sales agent and you weren't sure of something, you'd probably defer to your manager. And doing that, you avoid, as far as possible, we avoid hallucination. So we avoid the situation where the AI, and we've all seen it, where the AI makes up stuff that it doesn't know. And so in our case, if it doesn't know the answer, the AI will escalate the query to a human team member. What we find is that escalation doesn't happen too often because you might think that there are thousands, and talk about lead nurturing, there are thousands of questions that leads could answer. Actually, what we found is there aren't that many questions as part of this sales cycle, this sales process that leads will ask. And so once you've covered a couple of hundred of them, you very rarely do you find things that come outside of that. Obviously, there are exceptions, but very rarely do you find things that come outside of that. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I mentioned is that operators can set specific escalation policies. So thinking about specific scenarios where they would want something to be escalated. So, for example, I mentioned complaints. Someone starts swearing if another AI agent started swearing at you, then you'd escalate that. Or for example, if the AI agent was dealing with a human and someone asked it specifically, "Are you an AI agent?" you could then escalate it to a human. You already see that it's quite the worry a lot of people have talking to these AI agents, and we're used to it now with our Amazon and whatever services that we use, is that you can never get hold of a human. What I found, at least for now, is that it's easier to get hold of a human than it was before, because you can immediately say, just give me to a human, and they'll usually pass you over. At least for as long as we have this kind of escalation to a human option, there's some level of protection built in.
I think it really is just having clear accountability and really ownership boundaries of who owns what. So if you have different agents for different things, you want to make sure that you have guardrails of always have human in the loop if something breaks, obviously. And then transparency. I think having logs and a clear audit trail of what happened, why did it break.
Now, these companies have implemented AI agents, and so we asked them to share their best practices or lessons or recommendations to all of you.
When you're looking at considering AI in terms of how you're going to use it, the way that we've done it, I would recommend. I like the idea of looking at your revenue stack and looking at maybe your lower probability revenue or your lower revenue items. Of course, we don't want anyone who interacts with our brand to have a bad experience. But if you want to roll things out and you want to understand if they work, you have to get them out into the field. So putting it into a specific revenue stack, like your virtuals, like your meeting rooms, right? Like picking something where you're saying, like, if this goes wrong for a week or two, this is not going to have serious impacts on the business, then you can start to implement and you can start to grow it over time. So I think in speaking with other operators and giving them advice on how to implement, I would say start small, get comfortable. And once you get comfortable, then you can start to ramp up quickly, right? So your timing can be slow and then fast. So you take the time, get comfortable, get it set up the way you want to get it set up. And once you have that comfort level, you can really start to accelerate those timelines. But I think that's how you want to do the implementation, slow then fast.
You got to ask questions. What do you want it to do? What is your end goal? Are you trying to reduce overhead? Are you looking to increase efficiency? So putting guardrails in place, not only for the technology to behave properly on the phone and stay on task, but also keeping the goal in mind of what are we going to do with this? Because it's really, I don't want to say it's limitless, but there are so many aspects of your business that you can basically improve and streamline with AI. Figure out what you want to do with it, come up with a plan, implement it, and measure it.
Operators should consider how well the AI agent embedded in their existing workflow. No one wants to use AI agent and really needing to change the process of what we do in our everyday work. As long as AI agents can be well embedded and provide value and automated some of the work that is very repetitive and mundane, then it can be successful. If you're just using AI agent as a side gig to your ongoing work processes, I don't think there will be much adoption.
I think, generally speaking, I think if you're not thinking about how to leverage AI within your organization, it's either because you're too small, and which is actually understandable. Like, you still need to do everything. You don't have enough going on to warrant that level of automation. But what we generally see is once you have 2 or 3 or more locations, there's a real opportunity for AI. And I think, yeah, you have to embrace it, but you also have to really approach it with a skeptical eye and be very narrow in how you think about applying it. And whether it's with us or another vendor, I think really just having an honest conversation about that is important.
So right now, AI is the hottest topic in not just marketing, but generally in business. I will certainly recommend when you're looking at AI, do not rush into it. Take your time and do it right. There's so many AI companies popping up left, right, and center. And some of them, if I'm honest, they're not even AI. They just say they're AI when they're not actually. They're just riding this wave. I would say take your time. Do not rush into anything. Look at all of the options. Speak to peers in the industry. Speak to your competitors if you have a good relationship. Take your time and do it right.
Privacy and data and ethics is probably number one. It's like, where's my data going? And I think being transparent at the front and how the data is being used is, I think, is most important. Obviously, you want to make sure you respect and can have their consent for using these AI agents. And another thing is like training and fallback is really, our agents are always learning, and they're real co-working scenarios you want to train on, and you always want to have a human fallback to handle on any of these edge cases. I think it's most important.
You want to make sure that when you're implementing this, you are actually working with experts. AI is great because it gives us all kind of superpowers, but if you're implementing something that's going to be core to your business, you want to be working with experts. You want to make sure that it's done right. You want to be making sure that it's going to be done securely, that there's not going to be any data issues there. And I would say just on anything that's important, you want to work with lawyers, you want to work with accountants, you want to work with people who actually really understand the technology if it's something that's going to be foundational to your business.
When it comes to implementing some sort of AI agent in your business, two things. The first thing would be, don't be scared of the initial time investment. I think about AI like if you were trying to teach your young child how to load the dishwasher, you're like, I could probably have loaded this dishwasher so much faster if I just did this myself. But in a year, once my kid has owned the dishwasher task, it's going to save me so much time. And so just don't be scared of the initial time investment that it takes to get an AI tool to really be a valuable extension of your team. It's like the time that it takes a real human to get good at something. You have to build its brain. It did not necessarily come in with intuition. So you have to really put in the initial time investment, but don't be scared about that and don't give up. Keep working with the tool until you can get what you need from it. That long-term time savings is going to pay off. And the next thing I would say is take this as an opportunity to simplify your process. Simplify. Think about what very specific branch of, for 25 North, this is for our sales process. What very specific branch of my sales process do I want AI to take off my plate? Don't just assume that it can run on its own. Think about it like as if you were going to make a hiring decision. Where exactly do I want this person to plug in? What skills do I need it to have? And then how am I going to give that thing laser focus towards its goal? So simplify your process. It's a great opportunity to make sure that what you have had in your head is actually on paper. And yeah, see it as an opportunity to hone your processes and maybe document SOPs that you haven't had before. Yeah, it might really help you get more organized.
Given the speed that AI agents is moving, I wanted to add a new section into this report called What Next? What do we believe, or what are we seeing that could come just around the corner?
Where AI really will get exciting is when organizations figure out how to structure their data in such a way that gives the agents that sit on top of that data access to it to be able to manage that life cycle.
So if today it's the 80-20 rule, right? So 80% of transactions are still being booked or transacted offline, meaning that it's heavily on booking tours and coming to the space and speaking with someone in order to get a meeting room or an office. Then I believe that in the next 2-3 years, what we'll see is that 80% of the transaction will happen online, while only 20% of the deals will be closed offline by salespeople on the ground. And that will be a lot thanks to much more efficiency, like removing frictions to really discover and book spaces. All the information should be and will be online. I mean, we'll get much better at virtual tours and virtual maps, and really people will be able to go and choose the space they need and get all the information online. Some will still choose to opt into a tour and coming in person to see the space. But for the most part, I believe that transactions will be initiated online, right? I think that what we will also see is that AI agents will be the ones that will discover and book spaces, not just for individuals, but also for companies. So we'll start seeing AI agents making more sophisticated portfolios for companies and being able to plan and to book and to buy memberships and offices across different locations, maybe even different operators. And we'll just then see much higher utilization rates for co-working and overall more revenue.
But in terms of broader potential, I'm excited by lots of potential use cases, but in particular, I'm excited about using AI to optimize community building via digital platforms that foster better networking, deeper relationships, and deeper member engagement. That's a particular area that I think is really exciting. I think we'll be more efficient, we'll be more profitable as operators. Our teams should be happier in the work that they're doing. And we should be providing, we didn't really cover this side, but we should be providing an experience, a service for our customers that's more personalized and that's more meaningful, using our people in the right ways to deliver those services.
There is essentially three main topics I want to quickly dig into here. The one is concurrency, the other is AI agents for tasks, and the third is fully automated agent-handled experiences. So starting with concurrency, this is a technical term for when different calculations or tasks can all happen at the same time. It's usually used when referring to multiple instances of software all talking to the same centralized database. Think of this as all the different systems within a hotel all interacting with the same file database. With the right data structure and planning, AI agents will gain the ability to operate concurrently, all working on or around specific customer data without blocking or overriding each other's work. Your teams will get a productivity superpower, or at least be able to do more things that only they can do, while the AI agents handle the rest of the stuff in the background and automatically while tasks are being done and handed between systems and teams. The second is AI agents for tasks. Following an earlier thread that I hinted at, I strongly believe that we're going to see very specific and specialized AI agents enter the co-working industry. These specialized skills will then be trained within your accounting. For example, chasing invoicing, updating reports, preparing folders, scheduling, whether it's for your janitorial, maintenance, turnovers, reminders for celebrations. You'll see specialized AI agents for technical support, whether it's dealing with internet issues, setup guides, printer debugging. We'll see AI agents in the supply side of our industry, making sure the toilet paper has been reordered, noting what's in the fridge and reordering. I think we're going to start seeing more specialized agents being brought into these kind of areas and more. And the third area that I'm definitely watching is this idea of fully automated agent-handled experiences. Now, what I mean by this is we're getting very close to a point where a user's AI agent or assistant will be able to seamlessly book, check out, and check in to your space so that the human can interact with you without anyone having to touch a button, move a mouse, or tap a screen. And so that's definitely going to be a group of agents across their organization, your organization, a booking platform's organization, all working in tandem to make that experience possible. And now over to our generous underwriters for this edition, Francesco at Unity AI, for the last word.
Thanks, Hector. So I think we heard today from a lot of forward-thinking operators. And if there's one sort of lesson to take away, it's that you really can't shortcut the process of engaging with and integrating an AI strategy into your business. You have to start small. You have to measure what matters. You have to learn fast, and you have to keep adjusting. AI isn't a magic switch. It's a system, right? And like a system, it only works when you understand the inputs, stay close to the outcomes, and keep tightening the loop. The people who think it's just you could flip the switch and everything works are the ones who don't have exceptional results. The clients that we've really seen succeed are the ones who don't try day one to automate everything overnight. They're the ones who try to experiment. They give AI one small, narrow job to begin with. In the case of co-working, what we're hearing from a lot of people, that's co-working memberships, virtual offices, meeting rooms, etc., before you move on to the larger, higher price tickets like private offices, maybe where there's a little bit more risk if the AI goes off script. But you have to commit to making it better over time. My advice to everyone, really, from hearing from these operators and generally from our work with operators, is if you're thinking about integrating AI into your business, start with one problem, measure it, learn from it, and then grow from there. And really, that's how I think the future is going to get built. That's how AI is going to get integrated into organizations. And I think if there's one major lesson from me from sitting back and listening to all of these operators speak, it's that people do want to start small. They're not ready to go headfirst the entire way. They want to find small, concrete examples to basically apply an AI agent to, get some early wins before rolling it out. And if you're interested in learning more, feel free to reach out. We'd love to chat. And thank you so much to the This Week in Co-working team for putting this Undercurrents edition together.